If you're in ministry, you know how important it is to have a healthy marriage and family life. It's something that we talk about all the time. So in this episode, we want to give you 3 specific things you can do if you're a pastor to help your wife thrive in ministry.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Drosian. Joining me is Dylan Dodson. And today we're talking about 3 ways to help your wife thrive in ministry.
Yes, and particularly we're talking about, if you're a pastor and your wife, whether because she married you and maybe she wanted to be in ministry and maybe she didn't, but because you are in ministry as a pastor, it's a big part of her life. And so how can we help ensure that she is healthy and excited and for the long haul? Because as we know, ministry can be hard and it can be difficult. Yeah. And I want to give this caveat before we give these 3 things that you can do, because it may come across as you could say, well, again, isn't ministry supposed to be hard and sacrificial? And if you do these, it's kind of like based off, I don't know, your personal preferences, or it could seem selfish maybe.
Right, yeah.
And what I would say is that it is hard, and so you need to do things to set you and your marriage and your family up to be healthy for the long haul. And point number 2, which we'll get to in a second, I haven't heard, these are things, in my experience, and I'm talking to other people, and I think Christina would say, yeah, these 3 things have helped her. Particularly with point number 2, people will say, well, that doesn't seem very sacrificial. She's a pastor's wife. She's supposed to do it. As if, without actually understanding that, being a pastor's wife is not just a Sunday morning thing. For example, last week she met with someone at 9 o'clock during the week. Tonight she's meeting someone at 8 o'clock, which is not a habit we have of doing. Yeah. One was in crisis, one with kids. There's so many other things. She hears things that people say about me, and there's so much that goes into conversations that she has to have and all these sorts of things. That is really hard. Yeah. And people don't see those things. So it's always kind of funny to me when people are like, your wife doesn't do that, as in how dare she not? I'm like, you have no idea. Yeah, what she's had to go through to do it. And so that's the caveat.
And I mean, yes, of course, it's supposed to be sacrificial in church planting and in being in pastoral roles. But I think if you just look at the statistics, which I didn't bring with me, of pastors and families that burn out of ministry, I mean, it happens every day. And so to not take some precautions or try and be healthy, I think is really unwise.
So do not feel bad at all about implementing these. And I would also say this, talking more so lead pastors here, and as your plant grows and you have more people, the others, maybe pastors, staff, wives can also do it, but in the beginning, you may not have that luxury. But here are 3 things, all that to say, that you can do to help your wife thrive if you are in ministry as a pastor. Here's number 1, that you should be picky about who is in your small group.
Now, this is an interesting one.
This is something that we realized a few years ago, and we call ours community groups, whatever you missional community, whatever you call your groups, that you should actually make sure that you have people in your group that your friend, and just you, but more, we're talking about our wives specifically, are friends with and want to be with. Because so often it's meeting with people and mentoring people and being there for other people, if you have groups every single week, you don't want it to be another ministry thing that, even if your wife loves ministry, it's still another thing she has to do. Yeah. And so we have found that not everybody in our groups that we've had, but at least last couple of years and now, that I will double check with Christina before we say here's in our group to make sure she's good with it. Because if we have a bunch of people that she's not friends with, it's it's just another drag.
Yeah. I think this is one where or maybe not everybody, but most people agree with in their minds, right? But don't want to admit it, right? Because we think everyone should be able to, or everyone who wants to should be able to be in a small group, and I'm the pastor, so I should be ministering to everybody. Exactly. And like you said, it's selfish to pick and choose and whatever. But in reality, these are the people who you're going to be closest with in the church, most likely, the ones you're going to spend a lot of time with. And so when you start throwing personalities in there that, for whatever reason, don't get along well, it could be just completely different. Yeah, they're hard or draining. It's not going to end up being a good relationship.
Right. You want to have something that your wife looks forward to. And we learned this. I don't know what episode it is. We actually talked, part of this goes in your philosophy of how you do groups. At New City, we've done an episode on this. I don't know the number. Yeah. We actually encourage that you not multiply or split your groups. Right. Because and this is how we learned this, is in the past, we've been part of churches where our group has grown large and then we split. And because nobody likes splitting, it's like Christina and I would take everybody that we weren't as close with and everyone that we liked and were friends, they'd go in the other group so the other group could be strong and this one wouldn't fall apart. Yeah. And then we realized, oh man, we have no friends here. And because, again, you do so much and you have events, all these things, you've got to have a place that your wife can just be friends with people. Yeah. And so I would say, again, be picky about who's in your small group. And don't feel bad about it, because you got to look at the long haul, not just the short term.
Yeah, I think part of it is remembering that people in your group are in groups to grow, but so are you. And so it's if you can't just be thinking about making sure everyone else grows and kind of ignoring yourself.
Yeah. So number 1, be picky about who's in your small group. Actually make sure that you have friends and that your wife has friends in the group. Yeah. Here's number 2. Your wife does not have to be involved in kids ministry. We're part of Acts 29, and when we were going through the assessment process, one of our assessors at the little conference thing we were at, he was like, my wife has never been a part of kids ministry. And I get like sometimes like you do have to, I don't know, sacrifice if you need people to serve. And so like, I don't know. I mean, for them, that was fine.
Yeah.
But like, I would say that's like a very traditional role that the pastor's wife has to do. And it could be that, it could be anything else. I would just say that your wife does not have to do what people think she has to do.
Yeah, the stereotypical
And when
thing.
we started New City, Christina was she led Little City, and then she served for a while. And part of it was because she does a lot of stuff that people don't see. It wasn't something that she loved to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is okay because she does a lot of stuff she doesn't love to do. But also for her too, her giftings were better. Like we would have new people, and based on how our kids ministry works, yours is probably the same. Whenever she was in Little City, she wouldn't meet the new people. And she's one of the most bubbly, friendly, best with new persons at our church that you could have. And it's not because she's a pastor's wife, just her personality.
Yeah.
And so we'd have all these new people, and she would never meet them. And so not only was it not something that she wanted necessarily love to do anymore, but she also fit way better somewhere else.
Right.
And so whatever that is for you, I think kids ministry is the default one. I get like if you're launching and you need help there and she can help there. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm just more talking about long term, or even with that, don't do something based on what you think people think she's supposed to do.
Yeah, I think that's good. Whether it's kids ministry or something else, we kind of have these stereotypical roles that that the wife would be easy to fit into, whether it's kids ministry or something creative or admin, things like that. And it's just kind of like, oh, this is what the wife generally does to help out at first. And so that's just kind of where it defaults to, when really you need to take a look at what she wants to do, where her giftings are, and where she'll actually thrive. Like, and
what's funny is that we do this with everybody else. Like if we have people that we want that we want to serve in our church, we ask them. We try to find where they're good at, what they enjoy, like where they make this biggest impact. But it's like pastor's wife, oh, you must do this, and it's like, well, what if she doesn't like it and actually can help the church in another position?
Right.
And so number two, again, your wife does not have to be involved in kids ministry. She does not have to do anything. Find out what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And put her and let her do that.
Yeah.
So that's number two. And then here is number three. This is not so much a ministry thing, but it is like just to be a good husband thing, but it helps with ministry, is that you should make sure your wife has a night out with friends once a month or multiple times.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see this a lot of times, maybe not so much with pastors, because hopefully we're loving Jesus in our families better than, some people that aren't Christians. Right. But you see so many often where like the husband can't watch the kids by themselves, or the husband gets to do all his hobbies, and the one time his wife wants to do something, it's like a big ordeal.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want your wife to thrive and have friendships and enjoy the people in her church and otherwise, then you need to take responsibility to plan a night, be proactive about it. I'm going to watch the kids, or maybe on a Saturday morning, whatever, where she gets to go hang out with her friends, and none of her friends are available, that she just gets to go and do something on her own.
Yeah.
That you've got to make space for that to happen. And that's that's not just a ministry thing, that's just a life thing. But especially in ministry, when there's so much demands on your time and things that you have to do, you've got to create space for her to be able to just breathe.
Yeah. No, that's good. And like you said, that's relationship advice anywhere. It drives me nuts, like you said, when you hear husbands can't watch their kids.
Right.
Or I'll put it this way. I hear a lot of the wife doesn't trust the husband to watch the kids. But I think that's mostly on the husband, not the wife not being trusting. It's mostly that the husband hasn't proved that they can watch their
Or
child.
they're just trying to cover for their husband so their husband isn't embarrassed. Like
that could be too.
Recently, I had a guy come up to me, not to get too off subject, but like how he said he has never changed a poopy diaper. And he said it with like pride.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything, but what I thought is, you are a loser.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something to be proud about.
Right.
And so and maybe this looks different for you, but I would talk to your wife and say, would you enjoy one night a week, or what can I do to make it, once a month or a couple times a month, where you actually have a few hours, whether it's a morning time, maybe because of schedules, you need to take a few hours off during the week.
Yeah.
And maybe you have young kids and they, I don't know, but making time where she has a few hours to go hang out and do something on her own, and you being the one to initiate that, not just like make it sure, not just like that'll happen randomly, because it probably won't.
Yeah, and during that time, unless it's like a 911 situation, handle everything and not texting her saying,
right,
this is going on or this is going on. Handle the night.
Yeah, and part of that too is if she doesn't trust you to watch the kids, it's probably because it's probably on you.
Yeah.
Like every time she goes out, you have to text her all the time. Like, just try to do it on your own. You can. Yeah. Like, you're a big boy. you're a big boy. So if you can pastor a church, you can watch
raise
your kids.
A child.
And so those are the three again. Be picky about your small group. Don't feel bad about it. Make sure there are friends in your group that you and she like to be around. Number two, your wife doesn't have to be involved in kids ministry or in anything that she doesn't want to be involved in. We let other people do what they like to do. should probably let your wife do it as well.
Right.
And number 3, make sure your wife has a night out or a time out once a month or a couple times a month to do stuff with friends, to be away from the kids and away from you.
Yep.
Just to refresh and recharge, whatever that looks like for her.
Perfect.
So thanks for being with us today on Practical Church Planting. As always, practicalplanting.com/questions if you want us to talk about something. You can also go to practicalplanting.com to get show notes, to watch the video version, all that good stuff. So thanks for being with us today, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.